Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of the Masters Muscle podcast. Before we get into the show, I want to say a quick thank you to two of our supporters, Body Bags Clothing, hardcore apparel for both men and women, and Apollo Nutrition, premium supplements for all your health and wellness needs. Links and coupon codes will be provided in the description below. As always, I am joined by 8 times IFBB Masters Pro Champion, Vinny Galante. Vinny, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing tonight? So I hear some good news on your end. You linked up with Apollo Gym. Tell us a little bit about that before we get started.
Yeah, so I've known Robic for years, and it was kind of a no-brainer. I'm getting ready for a show in April, and Robic said, join the family. So I'm helping them with a lot of their social media, YouTube growth, and things along those lines. And hopefully they'll tell me what to come back here after 25 years of not competing.
Awesome. Apollo is a great gym. Rob's a good guy. And I got to get down there and train with you one weekend.
Definitely. But the man of the hour, please introduce the man of the hour.
Yeah, Rusty Jeffers, man. Let's go back a little bit. So I used to, before social media, I would see Rusty compete. In the magazines and Flex magazine, and at the Ironman, I think was the first time I ever seen him in a publication. The Ironman magazine or Flex magazine had you in the Ironman contest back in the day, and I thought,
the pro Ironman.
Got a great
that was
look.
My pro debut in 2005. Yeah,
your pro debut. So Rusty, thank you for coming and joining us tonight, and we're going to get a little started here. You correct me if I'm wrong. You started competing late 70s.
Yes.
What was your first?
My first show, I think it was like the Mr. Tucson, and Carlos Rodriguez was running it, and it was like in 1977 or something.
Wow. How old were you?
I think I was 14 at the time.
14. Wow. Because my first contest was 1984, and I was 16. And I see our stats. You turned pro in 2004 at the Masters Nationals, and I turned pro in 2008 at the Masters Nationals. And I thought it was kind of ironic how you're on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast. We never met, and then here we are today. So tell us a little bit about, how did you get involved in bodybuilding?
I had some uncles who were real strong, big men. They used to play, college football, and one of them played football for the Air Force or the Navy or one of those big ones. And so they were always showing me how to lift when we would go to family things and stuff, So I was like, oh, this is a cool thing. And so I just sort of started branching out with it. And then, I ended up, you had to be like 16 years old to get into the gym at the YMCA and stuff.
Right.
And I would sneak in there until they figured out how old I was, and they'd kick me out, And then I would go sneak into the high school gyms at the time, and they go, "Hey, are you going to be a freshman next year?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah." And really, I was just in junior high, so they found that out, and they kicked me out of that gym. And so I was like, "Okay, well, I got to figure out how to train." So I used to just build gym equipment out of wood. My first gym set was a preach curl and a squat rack and a bench press, all made out of 2x6s and stuff.
That's so cool.
And I think
that's cool. But
that's how I got my start.
So when you were doing that,
well, here's the deal. I was always in sports. I was always like in football or something like that, or wrestling, something real physical. And I was always like better at training for the sport than I was the actual sport, So I was I used to like lifting in weights, and the only reason I was on the football team in the first place was so I could get in the weight room.
Okay.
But, anything, my dad they used to take me to Olympic lifting. I used to do some Olympic lifting early on. And, then I saw the bodybuilding and I was hooked. I was like, oh, this is cool. I got to do this,
What were your first inspirational bodybuilding? Who inspired you? Because you pose a very unique way. It's a combination to me. It's fluid, it's classy, it's classical. You just know how to transition. And that comes natural. How did you get into that?
Well, I watched some of the guys in the gym. I used to train at the when I was a teenager, I trained at the Tucson Health Studio in Tucson, where Carlos Rodriguez and Marlon Darton were training. And I used to watch everything those guys did, and then Carlos was getting ready for the Mr. Universe at the time. I think like it was 1978 or 79, Mr. Universe. And so I would go in the back room and watch him pose. And he used to call me Jeffrey because he had a heavy accent and he couldn't say Jeffers, I guess. So he'd say, Jeffrey, you do it, you do this. And I'd come over and he would say, no, not like that, like this, And so he kind of took me under his wing a little bit and showed me kind of how to pose. And back then, posing was like a third of your score pretty much. So you had to be proficient at it.
Right.
So I think people spend a little more time on it and a little more effort into it than they do today. Because today seems like, at the Olympiads, it's banging out the mandatories, and, not so much in the free posing rounds, but
it's a lost art.
Yeah, kind of. But, the classic guys are still doing it.
Yeah. Oh, I see a lot of the classic guys posing with poses that don't suit them. They're doing it just to fit.
It's like you really got to look at your physique and decide what you have to have a big arsenal of poses that you know how to do. You got to try a lot of different things to find out what looks good on you, and that's kind of where I have a knack at it, because for some reason, it's like I'm a perfectionist when it comes to the pose. And it's like, okay, let's say you're trying to do some kneeling Bob Paris type of pose, right? It's supposed to look a certain way. If you got your foot in the wrong place, you're not leaning enough in the right direction, it's going to look awkward. And my theory is you take the awkward out of the poses and you're left with nothing but the best.
A lot of guys today don't put that final, don't dot the I and cross the T with the final detail of the pose, as you're saying. And I agree with you. And to me, it's frustrating a little bit. Like, if you just moved your foot one way, the pose would have been looking so much better.
Yeah, true. And well, another thing too, it's like, I don't know if a lot of the, some of the major pros even know a lot of poses. It seems like they're locked into the mandatories, and it's like they don't want to experiment with any other poses, And like you look at a guy like Cedric McMillan, who kind of posed a little more classically,
Mm-hmm.
God rest his soul. But, I always admired, guys like him. And I grew up watching Mike Menser and Frank Zane and, those guys could pose.
Yep. Rusty, when you're putting together a routine, do you pick the music first and then routine to that? Or do you practice the routine and then figure, am I going to add music to that? Which comes first?
I kind of pick the music, what's going to really move me, or what I think is going to be a crescendo type of a routine where maybe it builds up a little bit, because to me, I mean, the whole skill of posing is kind of telling that story, and Absolutely. if you can communicate that, and show a build up, and how Muhammad Makawe used to pose. That guy was a great poser, and he saw me. He just laid his soul out on that stage. You're like, damn, that was a great routine. Same thing with like Lee Labrada. He used to pose great too.
Yeah, and I was telling Melvin Anthony is another one that kind of one of the last great ones too. Was another one I thought that I'd good yourself as well, but Melvin Anthony I like myself.
Yeah, he did a lot of good classical type of poses and stuff. It's like you got to know your angles. And I think some people forget about that. It's like you need to hit the pose just right at the proper angle. To make sure it's right. And foot position is key, because I mean, think about it. Remember when Sean Roden beat Sean Ray for the Olympia?
You mean Phil Heath?
A few years back.
You mean Phil Heath?
Well, Sean Roden beat Phil Heath?
Right. Sorry. Anyhow,
yeah, that's okay.
That was a classic leg position thing. It's like every time Sean Roden did a pose, it looked aesthetically pleasing. And then like when you get to Phil Heath with his ab shots and stuff and keeps his legs so wide, it just took away from the pose. He just didn't look as good,
Yeah.
So, I mean, your foot placement has so much to do with how your body looks. And it seems like nowadays everyone wants to keep their feet at least a yard apart,
And it's interesting.
And
it's interesting.
I don't think it is. I don't think it makes them look that much more aesthetically pleasing. They're not going to lose any size by pulling their legs in a couple more inches, you know.
And I know that's changed a lot too.
If you got it, you got it.
Big thing with this Olympia, where everybody looked like they're almost riding a horse. Where I know people say that back when Wayne D'Amelio was running the show, it was like feet 6 inches apart, nothing more than that.
Right. But I mean, you can look at the balance of a pose. You look at someone just standing in the front relaxed, and you can see, you know, when their feet are too wide, it just makes them look just a little bit awkward, you know?
Mm-hmm. They all look awkward, yeah. You know, I remember standing when you and I were competed together at the Masters Legion in the 212 division, and I knew of you. I knew what you were bringing to the table, but to watch you, because I always touted myself as a good poser. But now that I don't know if you know this, but I had major shoulder surgeries. I have 14 anchors throughout my shoulders. So I can't do a lot of the poses that I used to do. And watching you pose, it was like just an art form on stage. And I got to tell you, like, you inspired me to put a better posing routine together after that. And I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So wait, who won that show?
I've had my own shoulder problems too. I've had 4 different shoulder surgeries myself. I have torn both rotator cuffs, labrums, had impingement surgery. I mean, I've had 2 on each side, you know? Yeah. So I feel your pain.
Do you have anchors?
Yeah, I got a couple of anchors.
Yeah, so you understand. So what's next for you?
You know,
oh, Rusty, we lost you.
I still need to put my application.
You're breaking up, Rusty.
Breaking up? Let me go back to where I was. I'm up here in my home gym.
Okay, there you go. We got your back. Vinny, ask again.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I would like to do the Masters Olympia if I accept it, because I need to put my application in, you know. But I already got my pro card for 23, so that's good. So I just put together the application and you know send it in, you know. But that's the show I would love to do. Would be the I'm sure anybody who's a master, that's the goal, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Get on stage at an Olympia.
So that's what you're planning on next, is the Masters O?
Yes. But if I don't get an invite, probably go back to the World Gary show.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was a good show last year. Yeah.
I came in off last year. I dealt with a broken hand training, and I just probably should not have competed at all because it was hard to train.
Yeah.
But, how do you feel with how can the way everything is changing, and like, you know, you have classic and you have bodybuilding, and we're going back and forth, like saying like the guys stand too wide in bodybuilding, and classic is showing a certain form on stage, and bodybuilding is showing, you know, like getting away from, because there's classic guys are just not even worrying about coming in condition. Do you feel like the outlash of a lot of the old school guys like Gaspari, Barry DeMay, talking about how the guys are just not coming in shape? Do you agree with them, or do you, like, what's your viewpoint on it?
Well, I didn't actually attend the Olympia, so I can't really make that, you know, close of a, you know, of a really decision on it. But, you know, it seems like they're getting bigger. The bodybuilders are getting bigger and bigger and looking more, you know, more awkward as it goes, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I mean, someone like Nick Walker, I mean, if he would learn how to pose really well, I mean, it'd be a miracle, because you'd never see a big guy like that posing well, right? He would leave everybody in the dust if he could just manage to somehow do it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think he had a decent pose routine this year. He did the best he could. He actually showed up with something, but a lot of them don't put any effort into it because they don't judge it anymore, like you were saying earlier.
Right. But, and one thing that I think that would kind of bring back a little bit more fan base would be if they did judge it, you know, And I mean, it's obviously you're not going to give it to someone who deserves 10th place and say, okay, they pose better, so they get 2nd place. You know, it's not going to do that. But it might be the difference between a couple of places in the top 5. You know what I mean? Like someone might edge their way up to 3rd instead of 4th. You know, out of having a really good posing routine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now I
was. Go ahead.
I was going to say I was taught to practice each pose, whether it's mandatories or the poses you're going to use in your routine, as if it were a workout. So I would do like 5 sets of side chest and hold it for 30 seconds. So you would be conditioned on stage. And I see a lot of guys breaking their poses today. Did you get in condition like that yourself for posing?
Yeah, I mean, typically a posing workout, like, you know, I'm going to go, you know, as the weeks go on, I'm going to start with like 5 rounds of mandatories a day and, you know, 5 posing routines, right? By the time I get to the show, it's, you know, 12 rounds of mandatories a day and 12 posing routines. Okay. So however you get them in, 6 in the morning and 6 at night or whatever, you get them in, you know, and for me, that works, you know, and I practice like some people, like, here's the thing. Everybody, like when you're training somebody for posing, you got to look at where they're going. Like, are they doing the national level show? Are they doing the statewide level show? Or are they doing a professional show? Okay. Because you got to pose totally different for each one of those. Right. Absolutely. Like if you're going, let's say you're just doing a national level show, right? Like the USA or something. Have you noticed how fast they're blazing through the mandatories? Because they got to get through freaking 100 people in a class, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to hit your shot like right damn now, you know, and then as soon as they call the next one, hit the next one as hard as you freaking can, you know? And it's like you got to think of your posing routine more as your mandatories more as a sprint, you know? It's like, and you don't got time to set it up. Like half of these guys are trying to set it up and they're losing the pose, you know, and they don't get called into the top 5, you know, for a national show. And that's, you know, it's because they didn't hit their poses fast enough, you know?
See that happening all the time. Yeah, definitely. I see guys doing that in the gym.
And then people aren't ready. Like here's another thing with a classic.
Yep, we lost you again, Rusty.
We lost you, Rusty. All right. A little technical difficulty. Sorry about that.
If you got to maybe log back in, log out.
How do you log?
Rusty, you might want to log out and then log back in.
So Vinny, to update everybody as we're waiting for Rusty to come back in, the latest word on the street is the lineup for the Masters O will be announced on the 24th of April, correct? I think that's the date where everyone will know who's in and who's not.
Monday, April 24th, the list comes out and who's invited. And I do know for a fact that they're picking 15 competitors for each division, which is, you know, pretty cool. No other information is released. We don't know if we got to get our own flights. Does the IFBB pay for it? If you're invited, what does that mean? Any hotel coverage? We don't know. But, you know, listen, man, I'm going nuts here. I don't know if any other Masters guy is. You know, they say patience is a virtue. I don't have it. I don't have that virtue. It's like, you know, we don't know why they're waiting until April 24th, but I'm sure they have a sound reason. Maybe they're waiting to hear back on some of the former pros that used to compete. Maybe they're giving them a timeline of having an off season, if you will. So who knows? We'll see. But you know, in the meantime, I'm training like I'm training for it. If the powers to be don't see it fit that I should be stepping on that stage, I'm going to jump off a bridge. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go into the Masters world again. I'll train for that. So I think June 1st is 12 weeks out from the Masters Olympia.
Okay.
And, I'm going to slowly chip away to get in better shape by the time it's 12 weeks out. I want to be in better shape this year at 12 weeks out than I was last year. Last year, I was off my game. Mentally, I was off. Physically, I was off because mentally I was off. And, having a broken hand sucked the whole time. So, I only had I think 5 or 6 weeks of good training under my belt. But I brought that stress into prep. And I look at pictures and I'm like, wow, I had a stressed look on my face at the show. I wasn't sharp. I didn't bring my A game. And maybe that was a good thing. Maybe that was a good thing. That looking fast forward, I will not allow that to happen. I'm gonna do the best I can. And hey, I'm gonna aim for being in great condition and bringing that kind of Zane Lee Labrada package that I'm known for. And we'll see what happens. So my training's good. Today I did legs. I've been slowly increasing my poundages on squats, and I found a gym that has this perfect Smith machine. So I'm going to try to go and, I have certain gyms that I go to for certain body parts because of just, listen, it's not fun training balls out at 55 years old, at 55 years of age. Everything hurts. I wake up in the morning, I'm hurting. So it takes a long time to warm up, and I want to be in a gym and that have machines that fit my body right now.
Yep.
I don't have many, I don't have the freedom or luxury to just pick up weights and train, I'm not 35. 20 years ago, it would have been no brainer, but it sucks. What are you going to do when you get older? You just got to focus on what you can do, what you can't, and what you can't do, you don't focus on. That's been my motto for the last couple of years,
Vinny, I never asked you, how far do you deviate from your stage weight? When you're off season?
So right now I'm about 210 and I compete at around 195.
Okay. So 15 pounds is perfect.
Yeah. But, I'm also from, with the mindset of I relax, last night I had some Oreos, I had some milk. I don't worry about a little extra that's around my midsection. I don't stress out about that at all. I don't worry about, I know what I look like in the off season. I know, I'm not getting, it's not like I'm, going backwards in the sense of conditioning. It's just, I know when I turn it on and I start eating fish and I rotate my carbs and I'm really dieting, I know what happens. And, my waist gets tiny. I have a small waist. I don't in the off season. And it doesn't bug me out. I don't worry about it. I'm Italian and I have a little belly and a fat ass in the off season.
You love your carbs, man. You're Italian. You love your carbs.
Yeah, I eat my carbs, right? So I like them. Yeah,
What's your mentality on cardio? You a big cardio guy, or you kind of come natural with less is, you know what I mean?
I stay at I try to do cardio 3 times a week at 20 minutes, nothing crazy.
Okay.
And then once it's once I'm about 15 weeks out, I start increasing. And last year I did something completely different. I did HIIT cardio where I jacked up the treadmill up to an incline of 15 for a full minute at a 4 speed, and then went back down for 2 minutes. And it messed up my back. My right side, my hip got thrown out just by being on that incline. I don't recommend it. Because it's not a natural stride when you're on the treadmill. So if you're walking up a hill, that's a natural movement because it's not forcing you in a certain way. I can't say it technically. All I know is that, excuse my language, but it fucked my back up really bad. My right hip, my lower back area was just a mess for the longest time. And it's just now in the last probably, I don't know, maybe a month, it's been releasing a little bit and going back into place. I get work done from this girl, Melissa, with cupping and stretching. And then I have another guy, Nick. He's like real intense stretching, turns me into a pretzel. And I use, I have those two guys in my arsenal to keep me going in the gym, So,
yeah, okay.
I
It's funny
tell
talking
you,
about go ahead.
for you, with you making a comeback, how old are you now?
50. Could be 51 in March.
Okay, hey, listen, man. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be 56 in April, and I started this journey back in 17, coming back. And once I figured out to just focus on what I can do, which is the
Yep.
biggest key, and focus on always just whatever I can do in the gym that creates a pump.
Mm-hmm.
I focus on that. And the one main thing that I just keep focusing on, which I want you to focus on, is going into the gym thinking of creating something.
Yep.
You got to go in the gym and create. Don't focus on getting bigger. Focus on getting better.
That's it.
So I say this to everybody. If your front lats are weak and you just go in and gym and train back, you're not focusing on what's weak, and you just become a bigger version of a crappy physique. So
yeah.
Focus on what's weak, hit those body parts, maybe a little extra, maybe throw them in a couple of times a week extra. Not a full, just for conversation's sake, if you train back on Tuesday and there's one area on your back that's a little weak, maybe on Friday or Saturday, throw in 3 or 4 sets just to, stimulate it a little bit more.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing, because my legs are my weak spot because of injuries. And that's just the way I am. I have runner legs. So that's what I do is I'll do one day of heavy, and then like 5 days later, I might do just 5 sets of extensions just to get the blood flowing and just try to get some muscle growth in there.
See, at our age, I don't think we should have days that are determined heavy days or light days. I think you need to go in, make sure you're warmed up, and just focus on getting a lot of blood in the area in those legs, and make sure your hamstrings are warmed up. And I can't implore enough, you got to be doing those Bulgarian split squats.
Yep.
Short range of motion squats on a Smith machine, even on a hack squat. You want to burn those legs. You want to get them etched, engorge them with blood, and a lot of wide stance squats.
Yep.
Because you want your adductors and everything inside to kind of like be 3D. So when you're standing there, everyone's thinking about like, oh, you want a big sweep. That's a genetic thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is different, right? So, but if you can grow more depth in your inner thighs, your legs have a way different illusion to them when they're on stage. So don't shy away from that.
I have a friend that said the same thing. Is I can't go straight with that to do a lot more. I'm doing a lot more abductor, adductor to kind of give that fullness a little bit more.
Okay, those exercises are fine, but you got to do those wide stance squats, and you got to do Bulgarian split squats. Those adductors are good. I think they're great for warming up or cooling down, but that should not. I mean, somebody else might disagree with me, but I don't think that should be your bread and butter in your mindset of thinking that's the exercise I'm going to create that.
Oh no, of course.
So you got to do those wide stance. Listen, if you haven't done wide stance Smith machine squats and in a 6 to 10 rep range where you're going heavy, you don't know what you're missing. It's something, not just you, but anybody else where, and also like, I remember a couple weeks ago, I was training legs next to Akeem Williams. And, I'm always thinking I'm doing something wrong when I'm doing partial squats, right? Then I turn around and I see Akeem doing the same exact thing. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. So I started talking to him about it. And he said, listen, I trained with a lot of guys that are in the sport, and nobody does full range of like ass to the grass squats.
Yeah.
The younger guys think that's what they need to do, and then roll their eyes at us for not doing it, right? And so it's like I did that for years. I would squat down and I try to have my ass touch the ground, and all it did was just make me feel uncomfortable in the morning. I wasn't sore. I did it for years, and now in the last couple of years, it's been mostly focused on squatting to a certain point, almost like a box squat type.
Yep.
Without a box. You see Lee Priest doing them throughout his career, and he was adamant about them. Like he didn't. And I think there were times when Lee Priest even went super light and went a little lower. But when you were putting some substantial weight on the bar, as a bodybuilder, that's the key. When you're training for bodybuilding, those partial squats really build a big depth quad. Like it's a different look to it. I'm 55 years old and my legs have never been this good. I mean, in my younger days when I trained super heavy and, tried to squat 500 pounds and, on average, I was squatting 400 for reps and didn't do shit for me. Now I'm squatting 275 for partials and my legs are growing. And I think one of the biggest things was me watching or hearing, I don't know if I read it or I saw an interview with Evan Centopani talking about, and I said this before in another podcast, talking about Bulgarian split squats. And, before that, it was like, that's what girls do in the corner, like with 10-pound dumbbells. Like,
I think they're working their ass.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's a bullshit exercise. But, well, if Evan's doing them, let me try it. So I did them. I couldn't walk, for the first time. And to this day, I can tell you, I'm waking up in the middle of the night cramping really bad. I keep sea salt next to my bed and some water because I know it's like I did legs today. I know tonight I'm going to wake up at 2:00 in the morning cramping really bad. But I don't care. I love this. I got a few psychopaths that I train with and they love what I do. And we're in sync when we train. And the next day, like today, I had to train alone because of the timing. But, I'm at a point where I need to have some lunatics, I need lunatics in my corner. Because if you're not going to go to that crazy place and you're going to just, go in for a workout, I don't want to work out with you, So make sure that when I come down to a pollen, you gotta have a few good meals in you, think crazy, and you're going to be blown away by the little amount of weight you're going to be using, and you're going to go out into the parking lot and puke.
I haven't done that for years. I've already talked to Eric. We're gonna get Eric involved too, because Eric's been my motivator when I go. He puts me through the grind. So. Eric
doesn't do more than 3 reps. It's gonna be like cardio to Eric. He won't survive.
Him and I use the I call it the swing or whatever it is. I don't know if you've seen the leg swing where you sit in the back and you kind of just go into it. I'll have to send you a picture of it.
You mean the swing squat?
Yeah.
The
Him
pendulum?
and I were killing. Yeah, the pendulum. Yeah. That's nasty. Him and I were going at it with that. And I love that machine, but that hurts like a bitch.
Yeah, Strong and Shapely has the original swing squat.
Okay.
And Powerhouse, where I work, has the Arsenal, a pendulum, and they're both completely different. Today's Arsenal is solid; it doesn't move. And the pendulum, the swing squat that Strong and Shapely has, Bob Bottom had gotten that probably 30-something years ago, and because I've been going to Strong and Shapely 27 years, and that's always been there. And it's even when it was new, the swing squat is a very loose machine. So when you put the weights on it, it's like wobbly. So you have to balance that. It's a completely different mechanism. It's a different way of doing the exercise. And I find when I do the pendulum, the less weight I use, the more I get out of it. And the more weight I use on the swing squat, the more I get out of that.
Because I think Eric and I might have had like a 45 and a 25 on the pendulum when we were kind of struggling.
Yeah, some of the pendulums are difficult. You turn on Instagram or YouTube and you see these guys banging away with 3 or 4 45s on each side. I think a lot of them were doing it just for a set, just to do a video.
Or there's a fake one in the middle.
So yeah. But even like for me, like it's a pain in the ass.
It's been one of those nights, folks. We lost Rusty, and now we lost Vinny. I don't know if he's on the phone.
Hey,
there he is.
I don't know what happened. It's a pain in the ass to get, like a good pump in my chest and my back because of the screws I have in my shoulders. And it's just, you know, it could be like a mind fuck when I go into the gym and I'm, you know, I'm seeing guys using the same machine I want to use with all this weight. And I know that like I'm using a 45 on each side, just 145, and my chest is just blowing up. And, you know, I know what I look like from it. And I think maybe should I have been training this way my whole career? Was I wasting time? Did I create my own injuries? Did I do that? And was it from wear and tear over the years, or just being stubborn to come into the realization like you don't need to train that way? You know, I say, so many times I'm like, wow, man, I'm getting a great workout, and the dude over there is, you know, he's dumbbell pressing 110s. I'm like, fucking idiot over here. And that's the day I got hurt. I knew that 70-pound dumbbell presses were my threshold. And this particular day, 70s felt like butter. They were just moving up and down so smooth. I'm like, all right, let me go 75s. Easy 10. Well, let me do 80s. Easy. Let me do 85s. Idiot here grabs the 90s because the 85s were being used. And on the fifth rep, I had it up. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? I had this aha moment. And I go, let me put this down. And before I could put it down, my right shoulder dislocated and tore the rotator cuff right off. And the dumbbell hit me in the face. I busted my mouth open with a 90-pound dumbbell. It was not pretty. You know, I had to get my teeth fixed. So, you know, if you can, my motto now is like, stay in your own lane. And I only know that because I went through, you know, these injuries. And I implore that to be, you know, because when you're talking to a healthy young guy, they're like, you're an old fuck. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm the guy now. I'm that old guy. I'm like, I dare not to give any advice in the gym anymore. There's a couple of guys that listen, but for the most part, it's like I try to tell somebody like, dude, you're training too heavy. And they're like, I can get it up. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. Just because you get the weight up doesn't mean you should be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you stick with rep range at this point? 8 to 10? What is your kind of sweet spot with working out?
I go back and forth with. I have this pattern I do where it's kind of like what John Meadows had out, where I think he's doing 4 reps, then leading into like a higher set rep. But before I even knew that existed, I was doing sets of 5 and increasing the weight up to a weight that I normally would use. And I was noticing I was getting a little stronger from doing that. And then I would do maybe 1 or 2 sets of 12 to 20 reps, depending on, you know, because my body responds better to slow, controlled, high reps.
Yep.
So, but now in the last like probably 3 weeks, I've been probably since the end of December, probably. So a month, I've been doing more volume with my sets, not volume workouts, not like 25, 30 sets, but like more volume. 12 reps every set is volume because I wasn't used to it. And I'm starting to have like a little growth spurt again. I can see my arms feeling. For this year, my goal is to fill out my arms and to fill out my chest more, because in the past shows, you know, I'm critical on myself. A side chest, my chest looks thick and big. From a front lat spread, it could be fixed, you know. So I just try to. I'm really hard on myself, man. I'm really hard on myself.
You have to be.
Yeah.
You have to be. See, with
this level, shit. Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is, if I get invited to the Masters Olympia, I think in my head, okay, I remember growing up and watching, you know, in the magazine, seeing Muhammad Makawe, Rory Ledermeyer, and all those guys, how they posed. And then you could see videos of even from Lee Haney, who was a fine poser, to guys who really posed like Bob Paris, you know, Lee Labrada, Sean Ray, even Vince Taylor. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, I got to find the perfect music. I got to put a great routine together. I'm going to the Olympia. If I go to Olympia, I'm like, I have to represent. Not only
one shot. This could be your only shot, brother. You know that.
It could be my own shot. And I'm not going to lie to you. If I get the invite, I'm going to be emotional. That's going to be an emotional roller coaster for me that day. No joke. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it took me 16 years to turn pro in a very difficult era. And, you know, I was burnt out when I turned pro, and I didn't give it justice. You know, I didn't give my career justice. I was burnt out. I was sick of living out of Tupperware. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was done. So now to have this second chance at 55, I'm going to be 56 when I enter the show. I'm not letting this opportunity slip, you know?
Are you hearing any more chatter on people throwing their name in the hat? You heard anything definitive?
No, but I'm surprised that when I do speak to guys, they say, yeah, I got to get my letter in. I'm like,
interesting.
That was my first thing I did when the first night I put the letter together and I sent it in. I didn't wait. I'm like, why am I going to wait?
But the guys you're hearing this from, are they retired or are they still competitive like you are, though?
Both.
Okay.
Both. There's a couple of guys who are claiming they want to compete again, but I don't see the desire. I really don't. I don't see the desire. You know, last year I didn't have that edge to me. I was tired, and I knew better, but I felt like it's the pro world. I want to do it. You know, and I was fighting against the grain, and you know, I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. And now I'm actually kind of glad I did do it, because I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling of half-assing it. That was the first time I will admit I half-assed it. I forced that prep, so I won't let that happen again. You know, I'm very hungry for this. I want to have the best showing I possibly can. You know, my mindset is just do the best I can. I'm staying in my own lane. I don't care who shows up. If I think about that, I can think how great they are, and, you know, be scared. But I don't, you know, I don't want to go in that route.
So at this point in your life, Vinny, do you have a coach, a nutritionist, or are you kind of self-sufficient at this point in the game?
So I'm actually, I teamed up with Justin Miller out of Bev's Gym, and Justin and I put like an off-season program together, like probably 2 months ago. But we talk, but I only got in one workout with him because he had some people, I think, in the Nationals and then the Olympia, and with the holidays, with, you know, from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, I was actually supposed to go see him today, but we rescheduled for next week because today is his wedding anniversary. But yeah, I've been following his diet. You know, have I taken in a little extra calories? Yes, I have. But you know, it's off season, and I know what I'm capable of getting away with. So, but yeah, we had. I mean, the workout that I went and did with him was over the top, and I'm using a lot of his techniques, and we talk, and you know, everything's cool. Yeah, so I'm using Justin Miller for this prep. Last year, I worked with Dom Cardone. He was fantastic, and the first guy that worked with me back in 19 was Jamie. Now, you know Jamie, that was out of Apollon.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, I owe a lot to those guys, you know, just help me out and get me back on track. And I always wanted to work with Dom, and I always wanted to work with Justin. So it was nothing like, you know, nothing against Dominic. It was just, I used him for the prep, and it was great. And I wanted to use Justin too. So it was just a preference of just different mindsets and doing different things. That's all.
Yep. So Vin, as we wind down here, you want to chat quickly about the Arnold? It's been one of those guys now. Technology is not on our favor, but again, humbly apologize. Hopefully Vinny will be back here momentarily. But I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been watching our episodes since day one, as well as now, Emmerich and Bill and everybody else. You know, thank you so much for commenting and also watching the show. Hopefully Vinny will be back momentarily. But again, yeah, for me, I competed 28 years ago, back in the 90s, and with some inspiration, some motivation, I am looking at 3 shows, looking between 14 and 17 weeks out, and over 50 class. So keeping my fingers crossed, and we'll see how that goes. And we'll wait another minute. And if Vin doesn't come back, again, thank you so much to everybody for watching. We'll wind down here, Vin. Technology's not on our side tonight.
Yeah, no, maybe it's yeah, I don't know.
Just what I was saying the Arnold. Obviously, you want to give a quick talk about the Arnold here. Your thoughts on we finally getting some good competitors in it. Any thoughts on the Arnold coming up?
To be quite honest with you, I don't really know too many of the guys except Nick Walker's going in it, Sean Claretta's going in it, and
we got Samson.
And
then Akeem's in it.
Yeah, I see Akeem at Strong and Shapely all the time where I train.
Yep.
A lot of times. He's a monster. And what was the other guy? Spanish
There's a couple
guy.
But I know those are the 3 or 4 that everybody's talking about. They all want to see Sean against the 2 monsters of Nick and Samson. And some people are saying he can put it off, but he's giving up 100 pounds and possibly 8 inches to each competitor.
Well, he beat a lot of guys at the Legion that were bigger and taller than him.
Yeah,
I don't underestimate Sean. He's a fierce competitor. He's dead serious in what he's doing, and he's leaving his own legacy and making a name for himself. So I can't lie. I mean, the guy, he's been one of my inspirations in the last couple of years. So I think like if what Sean can do, why can't I do it? Not in that path, but in the next,
yeah.
You know, got to be realistic. So. But earlier we were talking about cramping.
Oh yeah.
And, when I got offline for a second, I saw my sister. She texted me. She said, "Don't forget about the pickle juice," and that's what I use. So a lot of times, like I'll have pickle juice on leg day. I'll eat a pickle. I know this sounds really weird, but this is a great tip.
It's not unique. I've heard this, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try to eat a pickle with a meal that's right after training. And if I do cramp really bad, it's either sea salt or pickle juice. A lot of times, like this right now, I don't have any pickle juice, so I know I have the sea salt at my near my bed. But pickle juice, I know it sounds crazy, but if you take like a shot glass of pickle juice, the sodium, the electrolytes, the sodium, and everything knocks that cramp right out.
But is it more sodium or is it magnesium, though? I thought it was magnesium that causes more of the cramps. But either way, it sounds like it's working.
I don't know. I don't. Listen, I'm not a technical guy. I don't know anything from a book. I don't know any of this. I don't know how to train from a book. I only know almost 40 years of experience just by hands-on. And a lot of people can say, "Oh, it's bro science. Call it what you want," but you know why?
It works.
No, but the thing is, like, so many guys are so technical. Not many get that far in bodybuilding because they think too much.
Yeah. I've known people, though, they'll take that shot of pickle juice before their workout to try to bring out the vascularity because of the salt and the vascularity.
I wouldn't do that, but I'll have it on hand before I go to bed, you know, the day I did legs. So, but yeah.
Yeah. But Vin, as always, it's a pleasure. I'm glad that, hopefully we can get Rusty back. I'll let you reach out and hopefully we can get him back soon.
Yeah, as soon as we get off this, I'll try to text him. And, I don't know what happened. He lost his connection, obviously. And I apologize to the viewers that were looking to talk to him or ask questions, but that happens.
Yeah, we'll get him back. But of course, big announcement next week, Vinny. Do you want to share who's on next Wednesday?
Bill Grant. Can't wait.
For those of you that don't know Bill Grant, he's a competitor many, many years. Arnold Schwarzenegger's training partner, was in the great film Pumping Iron. I would say to look at his Instagram grill. I believe it's Bill Grant, and I forget there's something else, but 75 and still trains like a 30-year-old. It's crazy.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. We have a contest here in Jersey called the Steve Stone Classic. And it used to, no, I'm sorry. The John Kemp, Steve Stone is the Mets. It used to be called the Suburban Bodybuilding Championships, and now it's the John Kemper Classic. And I competed and won the middleweight and overall in the novice division in 1989. And that's when I first really met Bill. And he emceed the show. And to this day, I can still hear his voice emceeing me. And it's so long ago. And,
Wow.
that was it was a different mindset back then. We had a trophy that was called the Beast of the East, and only a couple of shows had it. And it was bragging rights when you won the Beast of the East. And it baffles me today when I ask a person who's going to train for a show, they don't know the names of the shows. They don't know anything. And there's just something missing. And I wish I knew how to bring it back. That flavor of like aiming, like the Jersey used to be the biggest show and people would train their asses off for it. The East Coast, and people don't do that anymore. They just want to go right to the universe and get their pro card. And so many careers are over as soon as they get that pro card. They don't realize it's great for bragging rights, but then after a while, they're like, all right, now what?
Yeah. Is Bill a Jersey guy? Does he reside in Jersey or?
Yeah, he trained at Diamond Gym. I don't know if he lived in Newark or the probably surrounding area, but he trained at Diamond. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Vin, as always, where can people plug? I know you've got a lot of social medias, and I got to scold you here, brother. You got to shut down half your Facebook pages, because if you look yourself up in Facebook, there's like 6 pages that you've started and stopped.
Because they were hacked. I'm going to use that excuse.
Yeah, I've heard that with your Instagram and everything else, you're that popular, you're getting hacked like crazy.
My Instagram got hacked. That was the truth. But the Facebook, I would just like create something, and it never took off. And I said, hell with it. And then I created another one later on, and so I have one. I want one Facebook, Vinny Galante. It's it. I got my Masters of Muscle logo there.
Yes, look for that one, because I think there's a training station. Like I said, look at yourself. I have somebody look you up. There's 3 or 4 of them on there. But anyway,
there's probably more. So, all right. So, looking forward to next week with Bill Grant. And again, I apologize to everybody, and I apologize to Rusty. I don't know where you are. And I'm using my phone actually, so I don't know if he tried to text me, but I'll text him as soon as we get off.
Perfect. And as always, folks, follow me on SupTalk_radio. And for anybody that's listening to this, it's also on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. And when you can, please leave a comment, give a review, because that helps us in the ratings, help us become one of the best podcasts out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Sean, see you next week.